So hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nabi Fikri. I am an application engineer from CAD Systems. So for today's topic, for this free lessons, so I will share with you about the how to bring AutoCAD Sketch into the Inventor. Right. So essentially, there are four methods that currently we can do. Well, the first one is just directly open, directly inside of Inventor. So nothing much with this one. It's just allow you to preview. So this one is basically just like an DWG viewer. So you cannot actually edit. The second one allow you to edit. So this one is you can insert the entire sketch into an Inventor to the sketch file. And the third one is basically the same thing, but this one is slightly easier because you can directly copy from the AutoCAD and you can just paste the sketch inside of Inventor. And lastly is the import. So I believe this one is quite interesting. This one allows you to import sketch from the AutoCAD and at the same time maintain the link. So if you edit the sketch from the AutoCAD inside of Inventor, it will automatically update. Right. So let's take a look at the first method. So currently I have a few AutoCAD sketch file here. So the first method is I would like to, let's say, view this file. So I can go to the Inventor, and what I can do is that I can just directly click open, and I can open the file, and basically is going to show you the preview of this AutoCAD sketch file. So you can see over here, so we have lines. Some of those have a different layer, but we cannot control the layer here. We can measure if you want to. So you have an ability to measure, but this is basically just for view only. So if you want to, you can print. You can also orbit if you want to, but this is basically just for 2D only. So nothing much that you can do from here. So let's take a look at the second method. So for the second method is insert. The insert one is you need to open open a part file first, and you can go to the 2D sketch. So you can go to the sketch from here. You can select any plane that you want inside of this Inventor. And from here, if you take a look on the right side, we have a ribbon insert, and we have this AutoCAD symbol here, right? So you can use this to basically insert the file directly. So for this case, I'm going to use, let's say, this file here. The interesting is that if you take a look, I have a dimension created over here. And I also have a parametric dimensions. But the normal one will automatically be converted into a parametric inside of Inventor. So let me show you. Let's say if I open up these files, the sketch file from the AutoCAD. For this, you will have a few options, a few settings that you can control. There are some layers that maybe you don't need. Okay, maybe I don't want to see the border, or maybe I don't want to see the dimensions. I can just turn on and off from here. Any layer that I don't want to bring, I can just use this. If you have different layout, you can also select from the layout. Okay, but another thing is that for the layout, it will only import the sketch file. It will not import this viewport here. If I take a look at the AutoCAD, so currently I have the viewport, which is taken from the model here. It will not import that one. So if you need it to bring from the layout, you must make sure that it is actually a sketch like this. So this viewport, it will not be bring inside. Okay, let me just show you an example. Let's say I pick layout 2. Currently, this one already missing, but let's say I want to pick this one. Another thing here, I believe you also need to close the DWG file first. You cannot leave it open. So otherwise, it will pop up this error message. So let me just close this file first. Maybe I want to save. And I open up from here, I can click a CAD. And I want to bring, let's say, which one? This one right here. So I can click open. And I can go to the layout number 2. And if I bring here, and just click next, and you can also change a specific unit if you need to, or you can just use the default unit directly from the AutoCAD. So I'm gonna leave it default, and I can click finish, and you will see all this sketch here is created, but not from the viewport like this. Okay, I think I already closed. Okay, right. So it will not bring this the top viewport. So I'm going to do the same, but this time I want to bring uh, the image that have a dimension. So let me show you about the dimension here. So if I go to the model, I have this dimension created using the AutoCAD, and I can click finish just to bring everything here. And you will see the dimension automatically converted into parametric, which is invented parametric. So if I take a look here, I have these circles. I want to change the size, maybe make it, let's say, 25, for example. You can just directly change it right from here. Right, but it will not bring the parametric dimension itself. If I take a look from the AutoCAD again, while I do have this normal dimension, I also put some parametric dimension from here. So parametric you can find under the parameter here, and you can put, let's say I want to put linear from here to here. So what this does is allow you to change the size. Maybe I want to make it 60, for example, and you will see the line become 60. Okay, but you cannot bring parametric into Inventor, but you can bring the normal AutoCAD sketch. Right. So one things here that you can do is that you can also quickly add a dimension and also some of the constraint here. As for the dimension, we already have it automatically created. But for example, like this one, I don't have any constraint yet. You can do it manually using this part here. You can just click to connect. But if you want to make it quick, we have the button for automatic dimension and also constraint. So I can use this. Maybe I want to have a constraint only. So you can turn off the dimensions. I can select everything and I can apply for the constraint automatically. But for this method, it does not add the uh, coincident constraint, which is the first one. I think this is the most important. But it does add some of the few things such as uh, the horizontal, vertical constraints, and so on. Okay, so let's say I do another things for the dimensions. So for the dimension, it's a bit difficult. It's much more recommend that you add it manually, right? Like this. But if you do need it to, you can also use the dimension. Maybe I select everything from here and I click apply, and you will see it adds too many dimension. Right, so you can do that, or you can just select a few of these only, just do it one by one and just leave it on dimensions, and it will apply for that part only, and then you can continue for the next part. Right, so this is the insert method. If you insert, it will not add the concentric automatically, it does not add. So the other method is similar like this one. Okay, before that, if you add it using the insert, and once you click finish, automatically it will become an inventor sketch, which you can use later on to extrude, right? So now I'm able to use it like here. Right, so similarly, for the third method, we have copy and paste. I believe this is much faster. You don't have the ability to filter which layer that you want, but I believe this is much quicker. Is that you can just select, maybe I want all of this. So I can just press Control C for copy, and I go back to Inventor. I'm going to sketch, let's say, around here, and I can press Ctrl V to paste it right over here. And now it's automatically added. And the good thing here is that it's also add the uh, the consider constraints automatically. If I highlight here, so you can see we have the constraint here, here. So it's automatically added. So it's much quicker. If you see the line here become black and this one become green, so the green basically Inventor lines, while the black line here still the same Inventor line, but it become black and also quite thinner. If you want to change all of the line become normal, what you can do is that you can go to the format here, and here is where you can see line setting. For example, line here, I want to make it red, for example. Oh, I want to make it red, for example, and you can see it become red. So for this case, I want to change everything into normal Inventor uh, sketch. So I'm going to select everything to default, and same goes with the thickness to default, and you will see it's now everything become green color like here. Since the constraints for the consider constraint automatically added, so I can easily add the automatic dimension and constraint. Okay, so I can select here and I can hit apply, so automatically will be add. The dimension will be slightly less than before because we have the consider constraints. One thing is that when you add a constraint, sometimes maybe there are some automatic constraint that you don't want to add. You can filter it out by going to the constraint settings, and you can go to inference. And over here, you can filter what are the things that you don't want to add, right? So maybe I don't want to have a tangents. So if I add automatic constraints, it will not add a tangent. That is just a bit tips right over there. Okay, but this method also does not have any link with the original file, but this is quite good enough. I can finish and I can use this to extrude. And if I needed to, I can go back and edit the constraint here, maybe make it 8. Maybe I want to, let's say, make this one slightly bigger. I can add some more dimension if I want to. So this is quite useful. But the last method that we have is allow you to have a link between the Inventor and also the AutoCAD. Right, so if I just go into the AutoCAD and change the size from here, it will not reflect back inside of Inventor. So if you want that method, that will be the last method, which is allow you to import the sketch and you can have a link between these two. So that will be the last method, import. So to have a link, I will use, let's say, this example here. Okay. So to add this inside Inventor and you want to have a link back with AutoCAD, is what you can do. Same again, you can go to the new to open a new part files. This time you don't have to go to the sketch. What you can do is that you can import. But this method also you need to close first. If I try to open this file, click, and I believe it will ask you to, okay, I think you don't have to close. All right, so you can just leave it, the file from AutoCAD open. But if I make some change from here, maybe I make it slightly toggle. Okay. Okay, maybe I make it shift like that, and maybe make it slightly bigger than that. Circles. Okay, and if I were to save this, and if I go back to Inventor, nothing changed yet. You can click update at the top here. So it will reflect back from the AutoCAD. Basically, you have a reference or a link to the original file. Okay, but you cannot extrude this because this is not an Inventor sketch. This is just a view only from the AutoCAD. Okay, what you can do here is that you can still extrude, you can create a new sketch, and you can trace back the line here using project geometry, not the normal project geometry. If you drop down from here, you can trace on the DWG sketch here. So I can select project DWG geometry, going to select everything from here. Now it become an AutoCAD sketch, and if I finish, I can now use this to extrude. Again, if I go back to the AutoCAD here, and I will make some change, maybe like this, for example, maybe I make change it back to inside. Okay, maybe change the location for the circle here. Right, so I save this file and I go back to the inventor, and I can now select local update, and you will see it's update the sketch and also update the 3D part, right? Because the 3D part have a sketch following the AutoCAD sketch file. Okay, but this one is basically just select and move manually, so not very good looking. If I were to move, you can just move down here around let's say 2.5, for example. But if you want to be a bit more precise, you can add a parameter. Okay, one example of parameter that I have here, let me just undo back. Okay, one parameter that I have here is this example. If I click here, I have some constraints, geometric constraints already apply. If I click all of this, you can see all of the constraints. But let's say I want to show geometric constraint only. I can select show all, hide, or I want to show for the dimension only. I can select show all, I can hide. Okay, over here I have the top base. I can double click and I can change the size from here, but you're probably not able to see much because we have too many dimension constraint here. What you can do, instead of doing that, you can select parameter manager. And over here, I already have create a constraint and with the name, for example, let's see. Okay, for example, this top base here, I name this as a top base 170. So I want to change that. I can just go over here, top base. Let's say I want to make it, let's say around 220. And you can see it's updated for that. I want to change the bottom base, maybe slightly smaller, say around 80. So I can change something like that. And with this, allow you to quickly create something like an automations, and you can have a link with the Inventor itself. So let me just close this one first because Inventor does not allow you to import object that already opened. So let me just create new, and I can select import for this parameter example here. I click this file here. Okay, actually I don't have to close for forgot. Okay, so let me just open back with this. Okay, so if I needed to make some change, okay, maybe I make some extrusion first. Oh, I needed to sketch something first from here. Okay, project geometry and project sketch. And I can use it to extrude. Okay, so I need to make a change. I can go over here. Maybe I want to make it this one slightly taller. So I have this pocket height here. Maybe I'll change it, let's say 100. Okay, maybe I want to change a hole diameter slightly bigger. Let's say this one will be 15, for example. And this one will be, let's say 8. Okay, I can do something like that. And I can save. And inside Inventor, I can just update. And later on, I can just go back to the AutoCAD to change the value from here. So we have a bit of automation over here. But how to do this? Okay, so over here on the AutoCAD, the full version, you have the parametric. This one is geometric, is similar with the Inventor, and also the dimension. Again, if you want to do it quickly, we have the automatic constraint here, and also the convert into dimension constraint. One example here, let's say if I have an object like this, and I don't want to do it manually one by one from here, adding this collinear or horizontal, so I can just use auto constraint. Oh, enter, and automatically it will add. Okay. And for the dimension constraints, it's a bit tricky because it's actually not automatic. It's allow you to convert. So you need to have a dimension first. Okay, so let's say I dimensions, but you cannot select directly on the line. You can select from one point to the next point. And to make it constraint, so you can go back to the parametric, and over here we have the dimensional constraint, and I can select the convert. Select this convert, enter, and now you become parametric dimensions. And this one currently the name is T1. If you want to, you can just change the name from here, or you can just double click and name this one. Let's say I'm going to put it, let's say tip 01 equals 7.7. You can change it from here to 8, or you can also change it directly from here. Say 10, for example. So you now have parametric drawing from here. Right, so that is the parametric. And by the way, if you don't want your item to be moved around, what you can do is that you can add a lock mechanism from here. So for example, let's say if I have this square box over here, I can change the size. I can make and add some dimensional constraint over here. Okay, so currently you can see it becomes tilted. So I can add a constraint first. Now I can add some linear. And if I change it to 20, for example, so allow you to change the size without moving around. Okay, but you can still move this item. Sometimes there are certain items that you don't want to move. For example, if you have a circles inside or outside here. Okay, so if I were to make this one smaller or bigger, sometimes it will shoot out or it will shoot inside, right? So for example, I make it 10, so you can see it's not directly inside anymore. And this one we can also move around, so maybe you don't want that. So first of all, you can pin this, you can use the lock mechanism. Let's say I don't want to move it from here. So I cannot move this item anymore. And this times I can change the value from here and it will not be moving around. And let's say I want this to stay at this center. And what you can do is that you can add, let's say I want to add some linear from here to here. Let's say the 30 will be half of this, let's say will be 50. But instead of doing that, because if I change it to back to 20, you can still 15. What you can do is that you can add an equation. Instead of 15, I want this to be half of this value. So I can put it 20 divided by 2. And it will be equal of 10, but still this one is not yet automatic because it's just a value. If I change back to 40 or 30, you can still see it's still 10. So instead of doing like that, I'm going to subtract from the name here. So I put it D1. So D1 will be 40. Divide by 2, it will be 20. So if I were to change to 30, so you can see it still stay at the center. So that is a bit of automation that you can add inside of the AutoCAD, and you can bring it into Inventor easily. So I believe that is all what I'd like to share with you. So thank you everyone for joining this free online lesson. I hope this will be useful, and have a nice day, and bye-bye. All right, I believe we have some question. Okay, what if I delete or move the AutoCAD file? Does this link Inventor will be read? Okay, I believe it will not be read anymore lah. Because if you take a look here, this is the DWG file which is linked from the AutoCAD. So let me just maybe save this file, and I'm going to save this one as a part 4, and I close. And this file here, I also close, I believe this one. Okay, let me just close this one first. Maybe I rename or I change the locations. Okay, I change the location. Oh, sorry. Uh, that will be parameter. So try to put over there and reopen back inside of Inventor. Okay, I think I accidentally opened a new Inventor file. Let me just try to open back from here. Okay, so when you try to open, so it will tells you to resolve a link. So something is missing from here. So if you skip, okay, I believe it still allow you to view the extrusion because you have this 2D sketch from Inventor, but it will not link back to the AutoCAD, and you will have a lot of error lah. So if you take a look over here, because the parameter from the AutoCAD is missing. So I hope that answer your question.